A penalty shot in overtime? Sure, why not? This game needed something exciting to happen. Drew O'Connor scored. The Canucks beat the Sharks. It's time for Rink Wide Vancouver. And we welcome you inside the Rink Wide Vancouver studios on a night that saw the Canucks defeat the San Jose Sharks by a score of 2-1 in overtime. It's Jeff Patterson along with Patrick Johnson of Post Media, the province newspaper. Rink Wide, a presentation of Bet365, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. Be sure to use code NATION when you open an account. Not sure what to expect in the YouTube live stream chat. Actually, I do know what to expect. It'll go off the rails as it almost always does. This game certainly didn't go off the rails. This one was a snooze fest for much of the night, but it did pick up at the end. And in the end, the Vancouver Canucks outlast those San Jose Sharks, the last place San Jose Sharks, by a score of 2-1. If you want to hit us up with a super chat, by all means, we want to hear what you have to say about this one. Back-to-back wins for the Vancouver Canucks, contrasting victories. As much fun as we've had at the rink the other night against Colorado, this one, as we said, a snore fest, but 2 points is 2 points, and they all look the same in the win column of the Vancouver Canucks, back ahead of the Calgary Flames, above the playoff bar for this night with one game to go before the Four Nations break. Super Chat charity partner this season, the BC Mental Health Foundation, changing the face of mental health and addiction by supporting breakthroughs in care, public understanding, research, and knowledge exchange. Pat, I will handle the summary of the first two periods, and then I'll let you jump in here. Nothing happened in the first 40 minutes. No goals. 2 goals in the third period, and one on a penalty shot in OT to end this hockey game.
It finished better than it started.
It sure did.
And went for a very, very long time. I mean, the way we were thinking we were going to have to prep for a 1-0 win that had nothing. I mean, there would have been the fun storyline of the back-to-back shutouts, talking about Kenny Lockett and your childhood dreams and heroes. But not to be Drew O'Connor, pulling through. I mean, that was a hell of a goal. And, Dakota Joshua, listen, you get goals. A win is a win. The headline of my story is miserable wins are still wins. And they are.
They are.
Was it 5-1-1 in the last 7?
Somehow.
Thatcher Demko playing well. I mean, there's all of a sudden there's actually things, even
and that's
despite
why
all
we do
this.
the show. I mean, there are talking points without a doubt. I didn't think JT Miller played here anymore, but he seemed to leave his shootout move behind. Drew O'Connor, as slow as could be to the left side, but then cut across, found his spot, and look, he scored in back-to-back games. I know the other night was an empty netter, but look, I think for anytime a new player is acquired and changes teams, you don't want this to drag on 5 games, 10 games, and there are enough guys on this roster, the current roster, that have been here all season that have gone in these long slumps. So even an empty netter, I think, just allows a guy to exhale, feel like he contributed. Rick Tocchet talked about how instead of staying still, moved his feet on the empty netter, skated into space, and opened up a lane to flip the backhander. Tonight showed some finish. He's got 7 goals on the season now. So good for Drew O'Connor. An overtime win, Patrick. We saw them win in overtime.
You said it was 16. I was like, oh, God, I know how this goes. Especially when they're giving up 2-on-1s and nothing's going their way. And, in fact, the block before... Right before the rush there, it felt like when the puck kind of flew in the air, nobody knew where it was. I'm like, oh, this isn't going to go well. But managed to get Philip Hedl, got the puck there on the wing, and managed to make something happen.
Well, Philip Hedl had the puck on his stick with about 90 seconds to go and put it in front of the net. That wasn't a great sequence for him.
No.
But look, and you're not going to win in overtime on a penalty shot very often. This team doesn't win in overtime very often at all. But the combination of they got a save at one end, Celebrini off the rush, the 2-on-1, and Thatcher Demko made that stop. Play goes the other way, and it's Celebrini on the back check that hooks Drew O'Connor. Referee points to center ice, penalty shot, and that's it. Game is over. 25th win of the year for the Vancouver Canucks. They're 25-18-11. Add it all up, that's 61 points. 15 of those 25 wins have come on the road, and 3 of the 25 victories have come at the expense of the San Jose Sharks. All 1-goal wins against the worst team in the National Hockey League, which goes back to your point that a 1-goal win against a bad team is the same as a 3-0 shutout.
The Colorado Avalanche.
Colorado Avalanche the other night. And yes, Thatcher Demko is the through line between these two games. And look, he talked about it the other night. The win is far more important than a shutout at this stage of the proceedings, but you're a goalie. You're always striving to be perfect on any given night. So he'll take the shutout the other night against the Avs and came, what was it, a minute and 28 seconds away from posting a second straight one. But even at that, it's 1 goal against in 2 games. We've been waiting for Thatcher Demko, and he had to make some saves in this game. Like, there were points in this hockey game where he was forced to step up early on. Will Smith had a breakaway in a scoreless tie. That may be the most exciting play that we saw in the first period, and Demko made the stop there. Grundstrom on the backhand when the Canucks had scored, and moments later, it was Grundstrom, puck in front of the net, and Demko got across, left pad down. I thought that might have been his best stop of the night. Toffoli, before he scored, moments before he scored, set up neatly by Celebrini. Those two, they clearly have some chemistry. And Toffoli was stopped there, but he wouldn't be denied as he banked the tying goal in off forward. But through it all, Thatcher Demko had to make some saves. Patrick, the shots in the third period were 16-3 in favor of San Jose, which, you know, if you're a Canucks fan, that's probably a little troubling.
Right.
Just try to park the bus and see a 1-0 lead across the finish line, and ultimately they couldn't do it. Yeah, they win the hockey game, but 16-3 against the worst team in the National Hockey League, that's frustrating. To me, that's frustrating. They were so much fun the other night. The game was fun, the way they played with pace and speed and attack and all that stuff, and 2 nights later, this was a slogfest.
Thatcher Demko has never lost against the San Jose Sharks. I think 13-0
now.
From the beginning. You know, they showed the stat at postgame there, but 13-0 all time. Loves playing these guys. There's just something about playing the Sharks. I mean, obviously the Sharks have not great for a lot of that. But yeah, he was dialed in and looking like the Thatcher Demko of old.
I see in the chat a lot of you want us to address Elias Pettersson, the forward. We'll get there.
Yeah.
But there are other talking points that I want to talk about that led to the Canucks' victory. And Justin in the chat says, Tocchet said yesterday he thought Dak was starting to get his legs back. And I would agree that even before the injury against Nashville on January the 3rd, remember he got in a fight that night, game before that in Seattle. He was a physical force as well. And look, I don't need him fighting, but I'm just saying that he was involved physically as one of the biggest forwards on this hockey club. He has to be. And so for him to get to the front of the net, Pia Suter just plays the puck in there. It's been a tough go for Dakota Joshua. We've talked about that on a lot of these shows, whether with you or with Irf. There are reasons for that, obviously. Sure. Season's been interrupted a couple of times, so you're not blown away. 3rd goal on February the 6th or whatever it is, but there is still runway here after the break to the finish line, and we saw the difference that this guy can be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
If he can use the stretch run effectively. Again, his individual totals are going to be way off from a year ago, but there's still time, I think, for him, the real Dakota Joshua, to arrive to be effective for this hockey club.
He's been more involved for whatever reason since I'd say about the last 4 games. You can just look at the numbers. I mean, sort of 50-50 games, but the Canucks are getting some shots on goal when he's on the ice. Maybe it's just the simple emotions of it all. We just kind of saw each other on Tuesday. He's always been a pretty friendly guy. I mean, I think we've noticed he's been a bit more tense maybe this year for a bunch of reasons. But there was just sort of this loose, hey, how's it going? Good to see you. And it's like, oh, well, looking forward to you seeing what you guys do tonight and that kind of thing. Yeah, and just like maybe it's just that simple. He just needed a little bit of a reset while he had the time off and came back. Obviously, his first game back was without. I mean, he and I think JT Miller are pretty good friends, but no JT Miller. He's sort of come back and he's playing a bit more fresh, and it was a nice goal. I mean, he did. Puser put the puck near the net. I mean, it was a sort of a classic, basic Canucks strategy, but Joshua found the seam and he's on the power play, did his job, put it in.
Facing a goaltender that hadn't played in 7 weeks, and a guy who has won once since early November in Vitek Vanacek, where we talked that Demko is perfect against San Jose. Vanacek somehow is 3-0 lifetime against the Canucks, but his individual numbers were terrible. So I'd have to go back and look at the games. He takes an overtime loss here, so hasn't lost to the Canucks in regulation. Single point's not going to matter to the Sharks. They started the night in last. They remain in last. They have lost 9 of 10. They have 5 wins in their last 28 hockey games. So sell-off started last weekend with Mikael Granlund and Cody Ceci, and you wonder what else is going to happen ahead of the trade deadline. They've got a plan in place, but it's going to be more pain. I guess maybe the good thing, I don't know if this is a good thing, but only 11,509 announced as the attendance. So there weren't that many that witnessed another loss, but attendance in San Jose is an issue. There's no question.
It's been an issue for a couple of years. And I mean, I think we're post-COVID now. It's just about the quality of the team and what's available on the ice.
And Macklin Celebrini is a star to build around, and he'll sell some tickets. But again, other than that, there's not a whole lot there. For the Vancouver Canucks, they opened the scoring on the power play as the penalty expired. Joshua from Suter and Myers, 8:04 the third period. And it stayed that way for another 10 minutes. And then, as we said, Philip Hedl, I'm not quite sure. Hronek gets the puck out of the corner, and Hedl, instead of just ripping it around the boards, played it in front. Toffoli with a couple of whacks at it, and it went off Forbert. They did give an assist to William Eklund, but Tyler Toffoli ties the game, set the stage for overtime, and that's where we talked about the penalty shot for Drew O'Connor. And yes, all the hard work, and this is the problem when you're preparing for a show like this. You had all these great statistics about back-to-back shutouts, going back through the ages. Ryan Miller was the last guy.
I mean, I went and simply looked to see when was, how many consecutive games the Canucks had shutouts, and it turned out that the last time a Canucks goalie did it back-to-back was Ryan Miller in January of 2015, so 10 years ago. Shut out the Flyers 4-0, shut out the Hurricanes the next night 3-0.
Which is interesting that the same guy played on consecutive nights with travel.
Yeah.
Don't see that very often a decade on.
The wild one was the first one, was 1975. Kenny Lockett, April 1st, April 2nd, which Steve May on Blue Sky points out to me. Those were the two starts. Kenny Lockett, the start in Game 1 against the Habs in the playoffs,
there we
which
go.
was not a good choice. Gary
deep
Smith.
cut, I love it.
Gary Smith, who you revealed was his driver.
Kenny Lockett lived up the street from us.
Let's go. Let's do it.
First house I ever lived in North Van. Kenny Lockett rented a house way up the other end on the other side of the street. He didn't drive. I don't know if he probably could drive. I'm not sure he.
I mean, that's a long way to live away from everything to not have a car and
Fair
not be able
enough.
to drive.
But Gary Smith was his goaltending tandem mate, and Gary Smith in a big convertible, or not convertible, a big Cadillac, would come and pick Kenny Lockett up for games and practices. And my brothers and I played street hockey every day, rain or shine, out front of the house. And the two Canuck goaltenders could not have been nicer to these kids. Stop, talk to us, signed autographs, signed programs, signed hockey cards, all that kind of stuff. And young kids just love the game of hockey. This idea that two Canuck goalies on like a regular basis would stop and chat, it was incredible. So, yes, we're going deep here in the history books, but
was not to be. No
Kenny
shutout.
Lockett,
But
any reference just brings a smile to my face when I hear Kenny Lockett's name. But yes, Ryan Miller was the last to do it. Thatcher Demko came within 90 seconds. Alas, it wasn't to be, but steps in the right direction again here for Thatcher Demko, trying to build up the Colorado game, trying to build his game back, and you would think now pretty good chance that he'll just run this out on Saturday and get the Leafs game. Even though Kevin Lankinen did shut the Leafs out a couple of weeks ago, but I wouldn't be surprised if Thatcher Demko's earned the opportunity to go against Toronto on Hockey Night in Canada in the final game before the Four Nations break. But we'll leave that. That's a decision for Rick Tocchet and his coaching staff. Super chat from Daniel G.
I like this
So
one.
happy to see Demko looking like last year. Another quiet night for EP40. Any chance Four Nations is a reset and a launching point for him? Again, we appreciate your support of the BC Mental Health Foundation. We saw some real flashes of last year from Thatcher Demko the other night against Colorado. Obviously, the Sharks aren't the Avs. They don't have the firepower the Avs do. We went through some of the saves that he had to make, though, and ends up stopping 33 of 34. So, the other night, 31 was a season high for him. Was that the Nashville game? Mm-hmm. Here he stops 33 of 34. So again, there's progressions in the workload, the saves that he has to make. Not all saves are equal. Not all teams are even. We get all of that, but that's sort of my take. Like, it was fun, a penalty shot in overtime. Don't see it often. Whatever. Yes, they win, but my takeaway is that this was a solid progression for Thatcher Demko, back-to-back starts, back-to-back wins, and just showing flashes of the guy that we saw last year earn himself a Vezina nomination at the very least.
Wish we could get Woodley in just to tell us about how his movement. I mean,
Yep.
To my untrained eye, I think the movement certainly what I've seen. I know that's been something that we have been discussing in the press box. Anyway, it's just the way he's maybe not looked quite himself, quite 100% moving around the crease, but he certainly has looked like that tonight. Certainly looked like that on Tuesday night, and an absolute good thing. And just to Daniel's question about will going to the Four Nations face-off be a big thing for
just
Petey.
hold off on the
Sure.
Petey talk for a sec, because we'll get in his night and sort of where things maybe go from here. While we're talking about Demko, let's get to the 3 stars. 3 stars in the building, selected by Dan Ruzanowski, longtime Sharks radio broadcaster. He goes Dan O'Connor, Vitek Vanacek, and Macklin Celebrini. The Sharks get 2 of them.
Wow.
That's the parting gift for them. The consolation prize is the Sharks, who lose again, get 2 of the 3 stars in the building, and the 11,000 that were still there. They went wild, I'm sure. 3 stars here on Rink Wide, a little different. Drew O'Connor, still wearing Penguins garb in his headshot. He's the first star.
He doesn't even have a headshot on NHL.com.
It wasn't just the game winner. It was 6 shots on goal. He had the chance early in the second period in a scoreless game, set up neatly by Brock Besser.
Yeah.
And took it well, got a good shot away. Playing a little higher in the lineup than I thought maybe he would, but it speaks to some of the struggles of others and the fact that Rick Tocchet loves the speed element and some straight lines here. So, yeah, Drew O'Connor wins it. He gets first star. Thatcher Demko on the night, 971 save percentage. You take that all day, every day. And, yes, Tyler Toffoli, a goal on 7 shots for the former, well, he was a former Canuck, but he's a former bunch of things. We won't list all the teams that he's played for. But he's got himself a different role there in San Jose as the veteran guy, provides some finish for Macklin Celebrini. Celebrini held off the score sheet, but he did have some moments in the game, but he also was the guy that flipped the puck over the glass when he wasn't under pressure, and that led to the power play goal. So as he was stepping out of the box, Dakota Joshua scored. Anyways, there you go. 3 stars, O'Connor, Demko, and Tyler Toffoli, the 3 stars. A presentation of Greta Bar, YVR. We talk about it on every postgame episode. All the big screens, all the street food, the arcade games. They've got weekly drink specials as well. Just a great place to watch a game, any game. Here, there's a big football game coming up. Check out Greta Bar. It's the place to be, 50 West Cordova, Greta Bar. Let the games begin. All right, no Quinn Hughes again, 7th game that he's missed. I pointed out on social earlier in the day, 7 games is a career high for him. Like, this guy's been remarkably durable. Missed 6 games a couple of years ago, but otherwise it's been a game here and a game there. But this is 7 now, 4 right after Christmas and 3 on this stretch, and we'll see. Canucks are supposed to practice at UBC on Friday. We'll see if the captain's there. If he's not, then pretty good chance he won't play on Saturday against the Leafs. But you hope he's back. Hockey's just more fun when Quinn Hughes is out there doing Quinn Hughes things. So we shall see. But he's missed 3 in a row here, but the Canucks have found a way to pick up points in all 3 of the games since he was injured in Dallas on Friday night. So 2-0-1 now in this 3-game stretch without the captain. Connor Garland had a night. A strange night. A really
Very
weird
strange
night. Absolutely lowered the boom on Mario Ferraro in the first period. Like, you don't think of Connor, he doesn't shy away from things, but you don't see him as the bowling ball or the wrecking ball.
No.
But he absolutely smoked Ferraro with a big hit there. But then he was on the receiving end of a little bit of treatment from Jake Wallman, drew a penalty, went to the locker room in the second period, came back in the third, and was sort of used sparingly. What did he finish with on the night for Connor Garland? Just 11 minutes and 22 seconds, 8.5 minutes at 5-on-5. Didn't register a shot on goal. Had 1 attempt. And it was just as low event night as you can imagine when Connor Garland was on the ice.
It's wild. It's two shot attempts for, 1 shot attempt against, but none of those shots went unblocked. All 3 of those shot attempts hit somebody and didn't even get to the net. Absolutely bizarre night for a guy that is leaned on to create stuff. It has been a bit of a struggle of late for him, I would say.
Yeah.
And in a weird way, maybe this is just the perfect summation. Nothing happening, and struggling to make an impact, and obviously dealing with something that kept him off the ice for a while. it's not the Connor Garland you want. Certainly not the Connor Garland we have seen for so much of this season.
Garland had the big hit early. Nils Aman, who didn't do a lot in this hockey game and generally doesn't do a lot, but he absolutely crushed Podorelski with about 5 minutes to go. Didn't notice him much throughout this game. Fourth line, didn't play an awful lot, but back in the National Hockey League, I had totally forgot that Nils Aman was in the opening night lineup against Calgary way back when. Now, Pia Suter didn't play, missed the opening game, and maybe that's what it was. But yes, Nils Aman hadn't been in the Canucks lineup since November 9th.
Yeah.
Played a home game against the Oilers, and that was the last we had seen of him. But he had a pretty decent run of form and scoring down in Abbotsford, and we've seen this, that a lot of these guys get 5 to 10 games, and they send them back, and that's kind of what happened to Linus Karlsson. So Nils Aman is back up, and
it feels weird to say, but there was something in that fourth line. It wasn't a great, exciting game by any stretch of the imagination. But they the Bluger, they played pretty well, I thought. And Niels Höglander is playing well. Like, he's making stuff happen. He's aggressive. He's been getting a few chances here and there. Of course, you'd like to see him burying them a bit more, but the depth stuff is there. Shall we go there? It's the top end.
Yeah, I think it's probably time
it's the top
go
end.
there.
It's just
I just want to mention another super chat from Taylor, who says Drew O'Connor, Hedel, and Petey massively raises the floor of this hockey team. And yes, I think the speed is noticeable. Pettersson's just been a really calming influence. They should give that guy a raise. Oh, wait, they already did.
I believe that word's already been used.
They've already done that.
I loved it as soon as I saw that quote from Patrick Alvin. I was like, yes, he is a calming influence.
Yeah, it does make you wonder, what is this defense going to look like when Quinn Hughes is eating up 25 minutes and everybody else slots in? But, hey, credit to the guys. Shut out Colorado the other night and give up 1 goal here. And even Detroit the other night didn't give up an awful lot and outplayed the Red Wings, just didn't have much finish. And that kind of leads us to this idea that and everybody in the chat is still going off on EP40, and I get it. He's been way too quiet on too many nights. This might have been the low of lows, quite frankly, given the opponent. And remember, last time they saw the Sharks before Christmas, he scored 2 goals.
Yeah.
He was a complete non-factor in this hockey game, like none. To the point that a lot of people are wondering now, like, what in the world is going on, right? Like, people have been patient. Then they make the JT trade, and the storyline emerges of, all right, room has been cleared. The path is open for you. This is your team. Go get them.
Yeah.
And there hasn't been much the last couple of games, but given the fact it was the last place team, Sharks give up more than any team in the National Hockey League, Patrick.
Yeah, that's the wild part.
And there was nothing. Didn't have a shot on goal. 3 attempts. I don't remember any of them. And just a complete reluctance to shoot the puck. I thought the first 5 minutes, Canucks came out, Vanacek, we talked about, get shots, test this guy, he hadn't played much. I liked the first 5 or 6 minutes. And then they got the power play and just passed it around. Like, the only guy who was trying to shoot was Hronek, and he missed the net most of the time. He did hit a post on one of the power plays in the first period, but there were times that it looked like EP40 was in the shooting lane with the puck coming to him. And just
wasn't even ready to shoot.
Reluctance, but you're right. Even beyond reluctance to shoot, it's just a readiness.
Yeah.
Like, he just looked so off in this hockey game, where this felt like the entry point against an opponent like this to just jump all over the Sharks and have one of those nights that, maybe would restore some people's belief. I tweeted out mid-game, and it is hard. It was 2 years ago right now. Like, we all look at last year's All-Star break as sort of this, it went south after. Patrick, 2 years ago at the All-Star game, he won the hardest shot competition. How?
It just feels like it doesn't even feel like the same guy.
Exactly.
It's amazing. So yeah, maybe him going to the Four Nations face-off and playing with his old coach Sam Hallam will make a difference, because he needs he needs to somehow, whatever it is, he needs to get out of his head, move it. I mean, Rick Tocchet said it so many times, but it really is move his feet. I mean, it's the problem on the power play in general. When they get static, it doesn't work. That's no shock. But the way that things were not working, period, with him on the ice, and whether that's because, he just, I just can't believe it's not the right line mates. The line mates have never been a question before, right? And all of a sudden now it's, well, does he have the right line mates? I just can't even imagine that's a thing.
Well, But let's get to one of the storylines to come out of this game was, so the Canucks get a power play in the second period.
Yeah.
And he wasn't out there to start. And some are saying, well, he was on the ice when the penalty was called, but so was Jake DeBrusk.
Yep.
And DeBrusk stayed out for the power play, and Pia Suter was out there, and Besser, and no Elias Pettersson. And you just wonder, like, is that the coach trying to send a message? And, I mean, he's tried a lot of things with this guy, and it's just not there. And I see a ton of discussions again. Like, anytime Elias Pettersson struggles come up, there's 35% of the fan base that says, well, he's injured. It's so clearly he's injured. I know that you've reported, people have said he's not injured. Like, this is how it works in the National Hockey League. You hear us reporting on guys taking maintenance days all the time.
Yeah.
That's guys that are in need of a day off. Something's bothering them. This guy has been there for every practice and has played every game since he returned in Carolina, early in the new year. If something was truly bothering him, this team would have shut him down at some point. Not shut him down for the season, but they would have had him take practice days off to rest up, to heal up. He would go to the coaching staff or the training staff and say, like, something's not right here. It's just not working for me. But if he's there every day and he's playing every game, then the expectation is, forget the salary. We haven't even mentioned the salary. But if a guy's available on a nightly basis, there has to be some expectation of a bottom line. And there is none.
Well, there is a bottom line. He's making a lot of money.
Well, there's a bottom line on payday twice a month. But on the score sheet, I mean, this is another game that goes by. This guy's sitting on 33 points. And let's get to our stat that stands out, because he figures prominently in this along with the rest of the team. When Tyler Toffoli scored tonight, Tyler Toffoli got his 20th goal of the season. The San Jose Sharks now have a 20-goal scorer, and the Vancouver Canucks do not. 7 teams started the night without a 20-goal scorer this season. One can get crossed off the list, and it's the worst team in the National Hockey League. And so that's not just on Pettersson. DeBrusk's next goal will give them a 20-goal score, and Brock Besser's close as well. But for Elias Pettersson, 11 goals, 22 assists, 33 points. And yes, he missed a little bit of time. He has now played 48 games for the Vancouver Canucks. So he's coming up on the 50-game mark, and he has 33 points.
If you want to go with on pace, but it's hard to say on pace when he's been going stretches of games without picking up a single point.
Well, the pace ain't picking up, that's for sure.
No, it's not picking up. 57 points, which is just a bizarre number, given that's, a little more than half of what he scored 2 seasons ago. I know we're going to keep talking about how it used to be, but that was how it used to be. It doesn't make any sense, really.
No.
Given everything. He's been paid. The Canucks need to find a way. He needs to find a way. They need him to be the guy that he's being paid to be. Because, you know what? As exciting and fun as Philip Hedl and Drew O'Connor have been, and fresh and bringing a little bit of energy, and, you know what? Attacking the inside the way Rick Tocchet insists he wants his team to, they're not the guys being paid to be the number one center. He's being paid to be the number one center. He is the number one center, and they need him to play like a number one center.
All right, another super chat from James. Hey, we appreciate the contributions here to the BC Mental Health Foundation. Keep them coming. James says, is there a world in which the Canucks consider EP40 on the wing? I don't think he can drive play at the moment. Well, I mean, he has played wing at times, but that was a world where they had one of the best 1-2-3 punches down the middle.
Yeah.
2 of those 3 aren't here anymore. So you just do some simple math. Like, could you move him to the wing? Fine, but who's going to play center? Who's going to center his line unless you somehow pair him with Philip Hedl? And
I just don't see it. I mean, he's still a guy 12 for 22 on faceoffs. Like, he's actually been pretty solid since Miller left. He's worked a lot on that part of his game. His defensive game is still really good. He was only 4 shot attempts against for the Sharks. I know it's like these are all like moral victory kind of points in the end.
It is the Sharks.
Right, it is the Sharks. But that part of his game has been there. The problem is exactly what he's being paid to do. He's not being paid to be Guy Carbonneau. He's being paid to be Jean Beliveau or pick any. He's being paid to be Henrik Sedin. He's being paid to be all these top end number one centers that we can think of. And that's just not been the case right now.
No, and back to your point of, for the most part, like he's Jake DeBrusk's back there again. It's not a question of him not having component parts to work with. Like Jake DeBrusk, their leading scorer, he's their best winger, and it just it was again, Pettersson's getting the smoke because of what he makes, but there was enough to go around, and I didn't think it was a particularly good night for Jake DeBrusk. Not a single shot on goal for him either. Besser had a chance early in the hockey game, but I didn't think Brock was all that dangerous. And I'm still not sure about the fit with Hedl and his speed, if it's to try to get Besser to keep up, if it's to create a little space that Besser can slide into and maybe find pucks and finish, whatever. I think for me the jury's still out on that as a combination, but look, they're winning hockey games, they're picking up points right now. This is what Rick Tocchet has to work with. Don't think Patrick Alvin and Jim Rutherford are done yet, so it's a little too early to be judging ultimately this group. And look, Besser's a big part of that. We don't know where things are going to play out for Brock Besser, how much more time he's got here in Vancouver. Every game that goes by could be the last one that he plays for the Vancouver Canucks. So, enjoy him while he's here, and we'll see if he makes it through the trade deadline, and then what happens if he does come summertime. But when I look at this night, again, okay, so they get a penalty shot goal and they get a power play goal. At 5-on-5, they just...
Nothing. The struggles to get inside. And Rick Tocchet had this great chat with a few of us after a scrum the other day, and we just got talking about zone entries basically. And so much of it is about how they're breaking the puck out, and obviously they are resetting all that. And they were just slow breaking the puck out tonight. It looked like when they've had poor nights, they didn't turn the puck over, they didn't have terrible gaffes. There was no velocity to it. And when they've been successful, you think about the game against Colorado, how quickly they moved the puck up the ice, how quickly they moved the puck out. Philip Roenick, think how active he was. We just didn't see quite that tonight. No. And it is that whole system. If the system is moving quickly at the back end, that opens up things down the ice. And, we've seen Philip Hedl and Joe O'Connor are naturally fast skaters, so they gain the zone with velocity, with speed. And that's not what we've seen enough of, and some of that is because the Canucks don't exactly have a deep bench of fast skaters. But to quote Marcus Pettersson, no player is as fast as the puck, and if you move the puck quickly, then you are inherently moving quickly up the ice. We'll see how things shake out. And obviously, not having Quinn Hughes, you're kind of doing what you can with what you can, and 2-1 without Quinn Hughes, it's hard to ignore that and that impressive win and so on and so on. But it is very much, again, like the Pettersson question. There's the baseline is actually looking pretty decent. It's what you're doing with the rest of the time when you have the puck, and there just needs to be more overall oomph in everyone's game, and Elias Pettersson's especially.
Yeah, 5-on-5, the Canucks got outshot 30-16.
Yeah.
By 30-18 by the San Jose Sharks. Philip Roenick led the Canucks ice time, 24 minutes and 31 seconds. Tyler Myers, 22-19. Myers with another point. Gets the second assist on the Dakota Joshua goal. He's kind of quietly been racking up points here. When we look at go under the hood and look at some of the underlying numbers, a lot of chatter obviously about Marcus Pettersson, gets the contract extension, and he and Myers had the matchup against Celebrini and Toffoli. Underlying numbers not kind to Marcus Pettersson on this night. Shots were 8-2 in favor of the Sharks. The shot attempts 16-11. So not out there for any goals at 5-on-5. Obviously, the Sharks' goal came 6-on-5 with the goaltender pulled for the extra attacker. But look, Marcus Pettersson's still settling in. He's got the contract extension. There's a lot to like in his game, but I think I noticed him more in the home games than I did in this one tonight.
Yeah, it's inevitable you're gonna have games like this. The funny thing is that it's the opponent, like that. Yep. You just come into it, and some level maybe you end up playing down to the opponent and whatever, and the buzz is worn off, and it's sort of that first road trip, and there's something going to, especially playing the Sharks. It's just not as exciting as it used to be. There is something about those road games in San Jose that never seem to quite have the same buzz anymore. But that said, we need. It comes back to the velocity question. The Canucks have not exactly been playing high event hockey, which is fine. The style. I mean, you asked the style question. I think to Patrick Alvin last week. Are you happy playing this boring hockey?
Right.
And in the end, people want to.
Well, at that time, he said fans just want to see wins.
They want to see wins.
They haven't seen enough wins, and certainly at home.
Yeah.
If you want to play ugly hockey, do it on the road.
Yeah.
But try somehow to be a little more up.
Well, get
tempo.
wins like you did on Tuesday, right? And that's, I think that's the baffling thing in all this, is that you see them play. You see them like the way they beat the Oilers, the way they beat the Leafs a couple weeks ago. Like, there's enough. They're grinding it out, but they're also creating stuff. They're making stuff happen, and that comes back to what I was saying earlier, just about the way they're moving the puck up the ice and the way they're entering the zone. And obviously, Marcus Pettersson was a guy brought in to help with that, and going forward should be a big improvement. Especially once Quinn Hughes. I mean, I am fascinated to see how this lineup looks once Quinn Hughes is back in, and you start making some decisions. Where do you put Philip Hronek? Because Hronek and Pettersson is a really tantalizing proposition, right? Here's a guy that spent all this time playing with a real sort of guy who really likes to wing it in Erik Karlsson, and another guy like Chris Letang, who's also very offensively inclined, will move the puck up the ice. Just kind of keep things calm. And so that
I think a shout out to Philip Hronek here. We've waited a while for him to elevate.
Yeah.
It's hard to do in the shadow of Quinn Hughes, right? Like it is. You're going to get. You can play your game, but most nights Quinn is going to be the big dog, and the attention is going to be there. But Quinn's not in the lineup right now, and I do think Philip Hronek has stepped up. And again, 24 and a half minutes, had 2 shots, had 6 attempts. Would like to see him hit the net a little bit more, but he did ping one off the post in the first period. But I just think that he's asserted himself at a time when the Canucks need that. So good on him. Another super chat here. Now, producer Jacob, help me out here. This one comes from Cole. It says, "You are amazing." Is he talking about PJ?
Yeah, it just was a fun graphic in the YouTube chat, and it said, "You are amazing."
Must be talking about PJ.
Oh, thanks. No, he's talking about Jacob.
No, maybe he's talking about Jacob. I hope he's talking about Rink Wide as a whole. But he made a nice contribution to the BC Mental Health Foundation. So, Cole,
thank you, Jacob.
You are amazing, too. Everybody's amazing. See how much fun it is when the Canucks are winning? It's a totally different vibe in the chat and here on Rink Wide as well. Speaking of vibes, what did you make of the violin anthems to start the hockey game?
Well, was that a choice to make it harder to boo?
I don't know. I don't know what that was.
It was different. I mean, I think I said to you before the game, I've covered, I think, 3 games in San Jose, and I feel like there's been some sort of pregame ceremony at every one of those games. I don't know whether it's just the Canucks are in town or what have you. It was, and then what was it? Can the Canucks representative please come to the
Oh, yeah. Well, no captain.
We don't even know who it is. But
hey, Elias Pettersson took the opening ceremonial face-off.
But
so there was that.
I liked it. I listen, I like it when they mix it up. I enjoyed it.
So do I.
I thought he did a lovely job with his violin.
He did. No, I thought actually it was cool. I don't know that it set the tone for a big hockey game. Maybe it did maybe it did set the tone for what was to follow. But I thought he did a nice job. And you were telling me that there are reports surfacing now that the young woman that sang the national anthem.
Well, TMZ. I don't know. TMZ got her on the phone or on Zoom, I guess, and she says, "Well, the Canucks had prepped her for the booze, and so she went out there." And I mean, everyone said. I mean, Rick Tocchet, with his smart answer, took no position on the situation. Someone said, "I felt bad for the girl," and I think we all did, but she did a remarkable job. We gave her credit the other night as well, and she told TMZ that she understands the Canucks are going to have her back.
I love it. I'm glad to hear
that.
So
hopefully that proves to be the case, because I thought she did a very good job, and obviously in a difficult circumstance.
Yes, and again, she did her job without a doubt. Agasha was her name, and I really do hope that it would be great if they brought her back for a one anthem game. Like Saturday would be incredible. Toronto, just the Canadian anthem, and not that she didn't do a great job with the American anthem, but I think to avoid a repeat of what happened it'd be kind of cool if it was just a one anthem night and everybody could get behind and cheer. But I'm glad to hear that there are some developments on that front. We've got developments here on Rink Wide as well. The game-winning goal scorer spoke to the media down in San Jose post-game. So let's hear from Drew O'Connor after a 2-1 victory at the Shark Tank.
And for you guys tonight, maybe take us through that moment in overtime and your shot on net there.
Yeah, they had a chance down our end. Obviously, we got a big save, and then just tried to beat my guy up the ice. Phil made an awesome play to get it to me. Got a little bit of a stick on it, but yeah, it was nice. It was a nice play by Phil to get it over to me.
Bit of a goalie battle through it all the way to that third period, especially. But what can you say about the team's performance as a whole?
I thought we did a great job defending hard. We had a couple big penalty kills. They got the late one, but I don't think we let it catch us off guard. We kind of responded well, and it was a big 2 points.
A couple games under your belt now. Where's the comfortability at with this group?
Yeah, I feel super comfortable. It's a great group of guys. They've been awesome to all of us so far. Me, Phil, Victor, and Petey welcoming us in. So it's been a lot of fun playing this week. Hopefully we can just keep this going.
You had a bit of a semi-break in the first period, and you shot it there. I'm always curious, did you know you were going to shoot in overtime, or are you just waiting to read off the goaltender?
Yeah, waiting to read a little bit. I kind of had an idea that's what I wanted to do with it. It's a little bit easier when you can come in slow and kind of pick your spot like that. Would have been nice to score the breakaway earlier, but glad I got another chance at it.
Well, you came through when it mattered the most. 7th goal of the season for Drew O'Connor. Philip Hedl doesn't get a point in this one, but he had points in his first two, and now Drew O'Connor with goals in back-to-back. So, the new guys are contributing. We've talked and we've heard Rick Tocchet talk about freshness and, these guys wanting to be coached. And some interesting comments from the coach, I think, speaking to what was here before the trades and kind of what is here now as they move forward. But, again, I would think that that should give Drew O'Connor a fair bit of credit. He looked like a goal scorer on that penalty shot.
Second OT penalty shot goal in Canucks team history.
Ah.
Do you know the other? He smiled a lot.
How far back are we going?
We're going just under a decade.
Oh, Alex Burrows?
Ben Hutton.
Oh, of course. Smiles a lot. Yes. Okay. No, that's a good description.
November 17th, 2016.
Alex Burrows smiled a lot. He was usually in a good mood.
No, it was Alex Burrows. So it's the 6th overtime penalty shot in team history, but only the second goal. And Marcus Naslund, Daniel Sedin, Alex Burrows, and Philip Roenick last year all missed. Ben Hutton scored November 17th, 2016 against Arizona.
That's a good one. I like that one.
Yeah.
All right. We hear that the coach is ready as well. It's kind of curious to get Rick Tocchet's take on this hockey game as a whole, but also the developments at the end that led to the Canucks win. So here is Rick Tocchet after the 2-1 victory.
Obviously a nice win, and Drew O'Connor to just top things off there. What can you say about him and clearly the addition he has been?
Yeah, obviously the speed. He really adds a lot to our team. And that was obviously a big goal for us, but just a real coachable kid. He wants to learn. And I know he's only been here a week, 2 weeks, but he's just a really good coachable kid.
Took a while to just find the back of the net. Can you attribute some of that to a bit of a goaltending battle tonight?
Yeah, both. Denver was great. So was their goaltender. We had some possession time. Some block shots. I think we could have got the puck to the net a little bit more, but it's a grindy game. Like, it was one of those games, I don't think we gave him a lot, but when we did, Denver was there. He made some great saves for us. So, you got sometimes in an A2 game schedule, you're going to have these games you have to grind it and find a way to win. 2 wins now without your captain in the lineup. What can you say just in terms of guys just stepping up? Yeah, that's our team. We're gonna, we can't really have passengers. We need everybody to contribute. Whether you play 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or whatever. I thought Hogliner was really good tonight. I thought Amon gave us a.
Oh, all right. There you go. Rick
there's
Tocchet.
technical issues with
all
that. I can get the rest of Tocchet up.
Nils Oman broke the video.
No, a little praise for Nils
fourth
Hoglander as well.
Drew O'Connor's been here 2 weeks. Sorry, Rick. He's been here 5 days. Calm down. I get it, Rick. Rick, I get it. The last month has felt like a decade.
No doubt.
But it's okay.
Yeah.
Time is back to normal now.
But he likes his speed, and he says coachable kid. And Yeah.
And he's been right. I mean, he's ridden the two guys he's got going, right? Like, they're fresh, they're new, they're playing well, they're delivering. Might as well go with them. Obviously, he need to repeat. There's certain guys that are already here he needs to get going. But right now, as it stands, they're going with the guys that are going. It's good. Drew O'Connor's a nice, early, good story.
Canucks go 1 for 4 on the power play. The penalty kill goes 2 for 2. Now, the Sharks score 6 on 5, but they didn't score on a pair of third-period power plays, and Canucks penalty kill has sort of progressively been a good news story, really since about the middle of December. So another night here where they get the job done, and some of the positives that you can take, because the tests are going to get tougher. The Leafs coming in on Saturday. We'll talk about Toronto here in a sec. I do want to just step back, though, and look at what's happening around the National Hockey League, because we've all sort of been focused on the drama, the trades, the playoff bar, catching Calgary. Patrick, this win pushes the Canucks within a single point of the Los Angeles Kings. The Canucks are back in. You go 5-1-1 while teams around you sputter.
Yeah.
They're within a single point of the Kings for the third divisional spot.
Now, let's remember the Kings have 3 games in hand, or
Kings
plus
have games
15 in goals, But you're not wrong. Like, there is something here. They just need to they said it themselves, they knew it themselves. They were just a couple steps away from not only just getting back in the playoffs, but getting a little run, and all of a sudden you're in a decent playoff spot, and you're not having to play the Oilers or having to play whoever finishes first. I mean, you're playing a tough opponent, whoever it is. But you are in a you'd rather be third than fourth. You avoid the crossover if necessary, and it's a team that is playing well, they're getting the points. They're playing all right, and they start playing well. Like, that's the thing. They start playing well, and all of a sudden they are in a spot they want to be.
I want to be clear, though, as people look at the standings. As you point out, the Los Angeles Kings have 3 games in hand on the Vancouver Canucks. I would direct people to look at the home ice record of the LA Kings. They have more home games remaining than any team in the NHL. They are 16-3-1 at Crypto.com.
That's awesome.
So that's going to make life challenging for the Vancouver Canucks, who are in LA. They're at Crypto in that first week out of the Four Nations break. They start in Vegas and Utah back-to-back, a couple of days off, and then the 2 Southern California teams, Los Angeles and Anaheim. So they got a couple of big games right out of the break here, but the only game that they can worry about right now is coming up on Saturday when the Toronto Maple Leafs come to town. Before then, though, we look around the National Hockey League. It's time for our line of the night, brought to you by Bet365, proud partner of Rink Wide Vancouver. Open an account with Bet365 today. Bet on a huge range of markets. Use code NATION. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Featured game on the out-of-town scoreboard on Friday. The Colorado Avalanche at the Edmonton Oilers. McDavid and McKinnon are going to be teammates starting next week, but they are on opposite sides on Friday night. Now, Avs were winners in Calgary tonight, and all their big guns were out. Marty Necas, beautiful breakaway goal. McKinnon, I think, had 3 assists. Cale Makar got his 20th. So it felt like Colorado's top guns took their frustrations of getting shut out here in Vancouver out on the Calgary Flames. They move up the highway. It's back-to-back for them, 3 and 4. We'll see if they run out Trent Miner, the former Vancouver Giant. He's going to get McDavid, and we'll see. Otherwise, Mackenzie Blackwood playing an awful lot. So they've got a decision there to make. Whatever. Oilers are heavy favorites. They're going to be rested, and it kind of feels like maybe a hill that's too steep for the Colorado Avalanche. But at the same time, they've got enough game changers in that lineup. Anyways, that's the game I'm watching, but I would expect that the Oilers find a way to get the job done at home. That's your Bet365 line of the night. All right. Among the games tonight, the Toronto Maple Leafs, 3-1 winners in Seattle. Leafs roll in here. They're 33-19-2 now on the season. They've started this road trip with wins in Edmonton, in Calgary, tonight in Seattle. So the Leafs are rolling. Of course, the Canucks shut them out in Toronto not that long ago. All the travel trouble coming from Carolina on game day.
Yeah.
And they beat the Toronto Maple Leafs with Dennis Hildeby in goal.
Is he playing on? Is he going to be playing on
He's
Saturday?
not going to play on Saturday night. They got Anthony Stolarz back.
They got Stolarz back. Yeah. I mean,
sounds like Hughes all right. They've been getting goaltending, and like that's one of the biggest differences of years gone by for the Toronto Maple Leafs is whether it's Joseph Woll, whether it's Anthony Stolarz. Stolarz has been out for 6 weeks, but they're getting goaltending on a lot of nights. Mitch Marner missed the game the other night in Calgary, but he was back. Picked up a point. He leads the Toronto Maple Leafs with 71 points. Got his 500th NHL assist. William Nylander going off, 33 goals on the season. Tavares has 21. Matthew Nyes got his 21st tonight. Austin Matthews has 20, where we talked about the Canucks don't have a 20-goal scorer, and there's a 33-goal scorer and three others who are already at the 20-goal mark. So, it's going to be a challenge, but it's going to be fun. It's always fun when the Leafs come to town. And you know who has the most fun when the Leafs come to town? The Vancouver Canucks have won 7 straight home games against Toronto and are 17-2 the last 19 times the Toronto Maple Leafs have come to Vancouver. 4 o'clock start to serve the Leafs' purposes? Who cares? It's all like I think the Leafs should want to play the 7 o'clock, the late game, because the early game has not worked for them out here in Vancouver. Utter dominance by the Vancouver Canucks.
7 straight?
7 straight wins against the Toronto Maple Leafs.
And so that would include 2021.
Remember, out of the lengthy COVID delay, they rose up to the challenge and they...
I'm falling out of my chair, Jeff. That's astounding. Yeah, no, I remember the game, absolutely.
Yeah.
They just patched together and they did what...
Here in Vancouver, Leafs schooled the Canucks in Toronto during the COVID break. And but in Vancouver, Rogers Arena... Like the Leafs barely show up. Thatcher Demko had 51 saves a couple of years ago in a victory.
I remember that one.
There's just been lots of different storylines.
And then what was the other one? 17?
17 of 19. Like going way back. Like we're going back almost 15 or
that's wild.
The numbers don't lie, Patrick.
Bizarre.
The numbers do not lie. But every game against the Leafs is a challenge in and of itself. And again, they're coming in, playing really good hockey and rolling right now. So let's see what happens on Saturday night. Early start. I would imagine some Leaf fans probably made the trek down the I-5 to see them in Seattle, and then they'll do the double dip with the game here on Saturday. Speaking of big games, Canada-US, February 15th, so that's coming quickly. We've got the watch party at Greta Bar. It's all presented by Fountain Tire. Sakaris and Price are going to be your fine hosts there. Raffle with exclusive prizes to be won. It's your chance to party it up and cheer for a once-in-a-lifetime Team Canada, all in support of Social Run Club YVR. $10 tickets or upgrade to a VIP package for $40, which includes a burger, a beverage, and an arcade game card. And you can snag table seating for up to 6 people with each VIP reservation. Doors at 4, the puck drop at 5. It is a 19-plus event. Grab your tickets now at nationgear.ca. And we should also tell you that the Nation Network is going to be all over the Four Nations Face-Off. Daily Face-Off Live. It's heading out on the road. On location at the Four Nations, bringing you exclusive coverage straight from the tournament from the 10th to the 20th. Live shows every weekday breaking down the big stories, the key matchups, and all of the action as it unfolds. They're going to be watching some of the league's best players go head-to-head, representing their countries and battling for international glory. You don't want to miss a second, so subscribe to the Daily Face-Off YouTube channel. Follow on all social platforms, and you'll be locked in for the tournament. Going to be bringing you insider analysis, on-the-ground coverage, maybe even a little chaos. It is international hockey. Daily Face-Off live on location from the Four Nations, February 10th to the 20th. All right. I would imagine the big storyline on Friday, if in fact the Canucks do practice as we expect, and with the early start on Saturday, no morning skate. So I think they will want some ice. The question is, will Quinn Hughes be part of practice?
I guess Quad's confirming earlier reports by Rick Dhaliwal that he's dealing with an oblique injury, which is in the side.
Yes.
So I mean that's good news if it's essentially a muscle strain and not something in his core. That is good news. But I just having given he didn't play the last 2 games, that when I asked you were there, I asked Rick Tocchet, has there been any improvement? He said, well, slight. But you're just like, I don't know. It's hard to imagine. We'll see. We will see. You never say never. They say it's up to him at this point.
Yeah, and look, Rick Tocchet said after practice on Wednesday before they flew that he knows it's coming down to crunch time here to make a decision for the Four Nations face-off. So I would think that tomorrow could be fairly telling in terms of what to expect on Saturday and maybe beyond for the tournament itself. So yeah, all eyes certainly will be on the practice rinks out at UBC, and I think the Leafs are scheduled to practice there as well. So could be a busy and hopping place on Friday afternoon.
I'm looking more and more at this Canucks Leafs thing. It's amazing. So that 17-2 record goes back to the last lockout.
Yeah.
The Leafs have averaged 2 goals a game in those games.
Yeah.
I suppose a lot of there's been, the Leafs have been very underwhelming for a lot of that, but that's still amazing.
So
I can't get over this.
So have the Canucks, Patrick.
It's true. That's true. There was a lot of misery in there.
I'm telling you, it almost sounded like you didn't believe me. You're coming around.
That's astounding.
17-2, 19 games. We'll see if they can go 18 for 20 when they hook on Saturday. And we will be back, and that'll be our next episode of Rink Wide Vancouver. Already looking forward to it. This game didn't have much in the early going, but built to a bigger finish. And end of the night, the Canucks found a way to get past the Sharks. So, as we said, they've won back-to-back hockey games, and Saturday is a chance for them. Colorado the other night, back-to-back wins on home ice for the first time this season to head into the Four Nations break. They got to get past the Leafs, though, and so that's the challenge for them. We'll see what Saturday brings. Harmon Dial is going to be my co-host then, so we thank you for sitting in here this week.
It's been a fun run.
Holding down the
fort.
We're going to get Irf back after the Four Nations break. He's on assignment. He's got a good assignment. Irf's going to be front and center at the Invictus games and here at the Wall Center.
Crawling all over the Wall Center, yeah.
Yeah, you can see that.
A lot of impressive people making me feel very inadequate.
Here in town. So that's where Irf has been the last couple of days and will be through the break as well. But we'll get him back on Rink Wide out of the Four Nations face-off. All right. Let's call it a night there. I think we've pretty much said all that we have to say about the Canucks and the Sharks. They will meet one more time. Game 81 for the Vancouver Canucks here in Vancouver. The Sharks one more time, and we'll see if the Canucks can complete the sweep of the regular season series when they meet then. But next up, it's Toronto on Saturday, and that's when we'll have our next post-game podcast for you. So we'll count down the minutes to the Canucks and the Leafs on Friday, and then we all step away and watch the Four Nations face-off. So for Jacob Lazar, behind the scenes, for PJ, I'm Jeff. Thanks so much again for checking out this episode of Rink Wide Vancouver.